Okay, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about my lifestyle, and I understand it's not for everybody, but it works for me. So foundational to my path is number one, I'm a member of the Summit Lighthouse. It gives me a very broad understanding of different religions, which I really appreciate because you'll understand in the next part I'm talking about my lifestyle. I meet a lot of different people, and everybody has a very different perspective on spirituality, and I can relate to them all because I've got a base that the summit gives me of understanding the various paths, and they all connect. They all connect. So anyway, that's where I've been for the last 40 years. Very happy with it. Really works for me. Next to that is that I do these decrees that the Summit Lighthouse teaches. Love the Violet Flame. Been doing it for 40 years. Highly recommend it. Violet Flame is not only for people like me, but it's been used by shamans. It's being used, I should say, by shamans. It's being used by Western psychologists. Eastern gurus are teaching it. Reiki healers are also using it. So the Violet Flame is a universal energy. Our Summit Lighthouse has been probably the most prolific about explaining it and teaching it for the last, 50, 60 years now. Anyway, Violet Flame, and I do decrees every morning. As you're going to also Google that link down there. Very powerful. I couldn't live this way. I couldn't live this lifestyle unless I did that. Absolutely, it's the breath of fresh air every morning. It wakes me up. It gives me the fire to create my life rather than being a victim of my life, actually. And that happens every morning. Every morning I'm creating the vibration, the frequency I want to be in, and out of that frequency all kinds of good things happen. So those are the basics. Other than that, it's kind of details, to be honest with you. So aside from that, which I think is very important, is I fast 1 day a week. And that fasting has done wonders for me. I mean, I think the fasting is where the rubber meets the road. It's really where you decide you're going to discipline yourself. It's a deep cleansing of the subconscious, so I highly recommend it. You know, I know people do these 7-day fasts or 40-day fasts, and that's great, but what I prefer is something that's a little more doable. I don't think I could do a 7-day fast, honestly. I prefer something that's a little more doable that is also consistent. Just fast on water that day. And I also do a cleansing of the colon, which I think is vitally important, especially when you're getting up in my age. I'm 60-some years old, and that cleansing is super important for the cleansing of the body not only, but for the keeping of the mind sharp. You know, you have a dirty colon, you have a dirty blood, you have a mind that's also affected by that. That's very important. And along with that, I do coffee enema, and you can Google that. It's very important for cleaning the liver, and it's also quite a relaxing experience, meditative. So that's a weekly practice I do. Tied to that very closely is my eating habits. I'm very aware of how I eat and what I eat. It's been a progression from the last 40 years of progressing, getting more defined in this area, which I think is very, very important, because once you start waking up your throat, which is and then the Eastern term is your throat chakra, then the perversions start coming up, and the big perversion of the throat chakra is our eating. It's the way we talk, what goes out, and it's what goes in. And our eating habits, you have to be transformed if you're going to be on a true spiritual path, where you're commanding light and energy through this throat chakra, because that wakes up a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the negative things that we've misused that throat chakra, which is in a lot of cases how we've ate and also how we've spoken. And on this subject of eating, I'm more interested these days on how I eat rather than what I eat, which means, as you'll see in the other video that I did, that am I really taking in the food? Am I really tasting it? Am I really enjoying it? I think people get caught up in what they eat, but then they devour the food without really taking it in. So I think it's great to have a good consciousness about what you're taking in, but have an equal concern about how you're taking it in. The other thing about my path is that I make it a habit to feed the homeless, to take care of people in less fortunate circumstances than me. So wherever I am, I find a store that will give food to the homeless, or give it to me so that I can transfer it to the homeless. I personally do it because I get a very I get a high out of it. I really feel comfortable with doing it. It puts me in a whole different place. And actually, these people are quite unique. You know, they don't have the cell phones buzzing. They don't have appointments to make. They're just sitting there. So it's a unique opportunity to dive or to be with, in a way, somebody else's whole way of being. Generally, my lifestyle though is one of following the Holy Spirit. I don't have a place to stay. I don't have a home, but I do have a home in my heart, and I'm very satisfied with that. I didn't just decide I was going to do this. It kind of grew on me after a divorce about 7 years ago. And so just to give you kind of a quick snapshot of what this lifestyle is like. So for the last year, I have been with a lady who teaches mantras, and I was teaching the Violet Flame to a group of more or less Buddhist type people, New Agers in Gothenburg. And then we didn't have a relationship. We just developed a good friendship. We went off to India together. I never expected to do that. I mean, a few months before that, was I going to go to India? No way. But anyway, I went to India. We stayed there for about 5 weeks, came back, and then I needed a place to stay when I came back. A friend of hers had a desperate situation. He had asparagus, which is a kind of you get panic attacks. And he needed somebody to help him out at home, so I stayed with him for a couple months. That was an intense experience for sure, but it was very educational. I was able to help him on his path. And by the way, the lady that I was with, that is the mantra teacher, she's now pregnant, and she attributes the pregnancy to the fact that I helped her get through the pain that she had been experiencing from a previous relationship, and she was able to move on. Yeah, then I popped off in different places around Gothenburg. I met a lady, an older lady, who lives by dumpster diving and lives by giving away what she gets. She gives away 90% of what she gets. I mean, an amazing lady. And she taught me the art. If you think that's gross, you don't know. You haven't been there. I mean, there's so much food wasted. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, so then I moved down to Gotland, lived in my tent, and I didn't have much money at that point. Every situation here is I don't have much money. I don't know where the next step is leading me, but it ends up working out. And so then I ended up in Gotland, and I was living in my tent. Just turns out that I was heading into a health food store. A friend of mine was there, and he said, "Hey, I just got a call from a farmer. He needs some help. People help him working on his organic farm." So I called him up immediately, got a job there. I worked there for the summer, most of the summer, and I had no clue that was going to happen, before. I ended up staying in his house. We became very good friends. And then I left there, and I actually didn't know it was getting to be August, September. I didn't know where I was going to go for the winter. Here you don't have a place in the winter time. You're kind of stuck. It can be very serious. Here's a story, cool story. I was looking on YouTube, and I thought, okay, this kind of tent, this living tent's kind of cool. What should I do, though? Winter's coming. I can't live in a tent. I thought, yeah, I need a rocket mass heater because I know how to build a rocket mass heater. I thought, yeah, if I could put up a rocket mass heater in something, maybe that would work. So then I started looking up rocket mass heaters, and I saw a rocket mass heater inside a teepee. I thought, oh my God, a rocket mass heater in a teepee is great because they were living in at 26 below zero, and they said it felt like room temperature inside this teepee with this rocket mass heater. So I thought, that's what I need I need a teepee. But I didn't have much money. I had like 7,000 crowns, which is like, $700. And you don't find a teepee for that cheap. You're talking 20,000 crowns minimum for a teepee most of the time. But I looked on this used items website called Blocket here in Sweden, and sure enough, the day after, there's a guy who's selling a teepee for 7,000 crowns, no joke. So I called him up right away, and he actually dropped it to 5,400 crowns. So I got it immediately, and now I have a teepee. Well, okay, I was looking for a place to put the teepee. I know it's great to have a teepee, but where are you going to put it? No place to put this thing. Okay, I guess God will provide. Okay, I got finished with the job, or I was finishing up the job on the organic farm, which was great. I was able to pick fresh fruit. I mean, this is organic. This is fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and berries, and I was having a feast. It was fantastic. So anyway, never expected that. a few months earlier. Okay, so then I have this teepee. Where am I going to put this teepee? A friend of mine tells me, hey, there's a farmer who needs somebody to watch his sheep, feed his sheep for the winter because he's going to go away. He needs to work. Okay, I called him up. Yeah, we got plenty of room for your teepee up here. Come on up. So I come up here, and now I'm with him. Now he's an interesting fellow. He's he's aspiring a pagan priest. I don't know, Nordic religion, and that sounds very negative to a lot of people, a lot of Christians, but turns out, paganism isn't so far from Hinduism. It's just a little twist on different words and stuff like that. So I could relate to him on that. And he's got big dreams for this organic farm, which is really great. The thing is that he was very heavily into marijuana when I met him. Now he's dropped it. I haven't, I think it's just the prayers that I do. They just help people and they lift them on to the next spot. And now he's very passionate about getting into his pagan religion. So that's great, he's moving on. And also in the meantime, I've met some people who are heavily devout Christians from Africa, wonderful people. And so now all of a sudden I'm with this pagan and these Christians together. So as you see, in the last year I've been with New Agers, with Buddhists, been to India, been with atheists. The farmer was an atheist. I live in his house with great friends. Now I'm living with a pagan and meeting Christians who, so it's like the whole camp. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, God has provided. These aren't easy situations. This is cold up here, and this caravan I'm living in is very cold. I guess the average temperature is about 8-10 degrees, which is that's Celsius, so that's like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But I'm growing to like it. This is kind of nice. You just dress a little warmer. So the point is, every situation has a unique challenge, which God, by His grace, helps me to meet, and I love it up here. When I came here, I was scared to death. It's going to be freezing. There's not going to be food. I'm not going to have money. I'm going to be alone. All these things, I was scared to death. But, by God's grace, I'm here and I'm loving it. So, it's giving me the opportunity to write the book, because that was the main thing. I thought, I got to write these books and I don't have time. I don't have a place to write it. Now I have all the time in the world. I'm just feeding sheep half hour a day and I can write my books. So what happens after this? I don't know. I got till April here and I just have this faith that it's going to work out. I don't know where it's going to be. And this is the kind of lifestyle that is exciting. This is like, I'm not in an office. I don't have a comfortable place to stay. And I'm not getting into the comfortable situation. I think I read this, saw this TED talk that the enemy to our growth is comfort. And absolutely 100% agree. Because I have found that I have grown so much because every situation, every few months, I'm thrown into a whole nother set of circumstances, a whole nother lifestyle, a whole nother group of people, and it's not comfortable. But I learn to love it. I learn to grow into it, and God always gives me the ability to see the beauty of the people that I'm with and to help them as they help me, because they provide a place for me to stay. So I don't know where I'm going to end up next, and maybe I'll end up on your doorstep. So that's a part of my lifestyle that's growing, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll end up getting a job someplace. Who knows? Maybe be a normal person, right? Like most Western people. But this is actually, I think I'm living a lifestyle that is coming unfortunately for Western society, because the AI, the artificial intelligence, this is moving in, and it's going to take jobs. It's already taking jobs. I was talking to a guy who is a professional in this. He actually works with these robots, and he actually goes into jobs and he finds where the robots will apply to their work situation. So it takes humans out of the workforce, right? And he says that 70% of the jobs in the next 20 years will be taken by AI. 70%. That means there's a lot of people who will be living on minimum or no wages. That's going to create a lot of people like me in a situation where they're going to have to find a way to live very minimalistically, which I am doing. So I feel like I'm kind of, forging a path and helping people understand that, you can live this way. It's not impossible. Of course, not everybody's going to do this, but I'm not just doing it because I think this is, a cool thing for me. I also have a sense that this is where we're headed, folks, if we don't change this economic situation, and it doesn't look like it's going to change. It doesn't look like it's going to change. So living in a teepee with a rocket mass heater could be a choice for a lot of people in the future. Absolutely.